start, because I want to have plenty of time if anybody has comments that they can add. We do have a tiny bit of business that we have to handle first. It is the meeting where we elect
Can everyone hear
officers and board members. Yes.
It's kind of hard to hear. I don't know if it's coming over
Max,
the
they
system.
can't hear.
Check and see if you're on. It's your left one.
I may not be on. How do I know if I'm on?
Oh, you're on.
It'll be lit up.
Yeah.
There's, am I on now? Is this
Yeah.
better? Okay, how about, can everyone hear? Okay, I feel like I'm some kind of an automatic automatron or something up here. Anyway, we do need to have election of officers, and there is a slate that has been proposed by the nominating committee. Board of Director, Terry Landseidel, Siobhan Sladek, you're Vice President.
No, Judy.
Oh, Judy, yeah, Judy. Judy, O'Loughlin. Treasurer will be shared by Shar and Lori.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Dolores, Vice President, and myself as President. Are there any nominations from the floor? All right, then,
I'll move that the slate be elected.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then, your officers are as I just named.
Stated.
Okay.
As
And
I
we didn't
just
hear who
stated.
seconded it. Oh, Dolores, okay.
Dolores seconded it. Okay. Moving on, then, we have this wonderful map that you have in front of you that has so much information on it. And as I got to looking at it, there's so much that it's almost overwhelming. So I had an idea for presenting this as a program because there's information that I'm not sure about. There's information that I've never heard of on some of it. I found one mistake, but it is absolutely fascinating. So without further ado, we're going to start.
Gretchen, real quick, who drew that? Do you know?
Yes, that's one of the things I was going to tell you. It's at the bottom. Down here.
Shirley A. Harrington.
Yeah, Shirley Harrington was a part of the Historical Society for a long, long, long time. And she was an artist. So all the information is as to who did the work on this is there on the map. It was, I think, a concept of Glenn Settles in memory of his wife, Doreen, who passed away in 2000. Doreen and Glenn were really mainstays of the Historical Society for years and years and years. Now, one of the things that makes it difficult is there are so many lines. So I think what you need to do at first is get the roads in your head. So I took a map and I drew the roads. This is Rosamond Boulevard. And you all have that. There's Rosamond Boulevard. This is Mojave Tropical Road, but I think it's listed as Tropical Mojave on your map. This is 90th Street, or Tehachapi Willow Springs Road. And up here is Bacchus. So you have yourself kind of oriented. It really helps, it really helps me to take a marker and mark it on the map because you can't tell roads from the hills. Okay, so let's start at start. Can you find it? This is Rosen Boulevard, and this is Mojave Tropical Road, or Tropical Mojave Road, whichever, you know. Have you found it? One of the things that I really would like to get some information on is this area right here. This is C1, like, I don't know, stop one on the circle. I have never heard of this, but some people have family members who have. Byers Oil Stove was there from 1920 to 1930, and it was the Byers family home back here. And it's right there on the corner of Mojave Tropico and Rosen Boulevard. Now, I'm not sure if it's the house or if it's the building there behind the house.
It wasn't really, it was a little bit to the west, and the Byers family still lived there when we moved in '59.
So the Byers family was still there in '59.
Right.
Because there was another Byers that lived out on Baptist Road, but it's spelled differently.
Well, my kids went to school with Byers girls.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so there were, so do you have any idea where, any information about this family, other than your girls went to school with them?
I'm not sure, even Russ might have, I don't, when you send so many kids to school, you forget who went to school with who.
Well, you know, that's part of my wanting, I want people to ask people they know, do you know anything about this, and get it back to us so we can document.
Would that have been Danny Byers' family?
No, that's B-Y-E-R-S.
Okay, what would have been the name of those kids?
I don't, Dolores, do you remember the name of the kids?
Not right now.
Well, that's what we need to find out. Let's see if we can, you know, ask people.
Maybe I'll ask a kid or two. I think Kelly's probably a little young. I think it was probably.
There was a Cindy, but I'm not sure of the spelling of the last name.
Okay, so, we also have other things in this area. Of course, oops, let's see if I can go back. I don't think I can. It won't go back. I tried it. There, it did go back. Okay, let's try again. There we go. We have stop number 2, Tropical Middle School. And I think the date is right. That agrees with what I have in other places. 1958 was when it was opened, I guess, finished. Then you go to C3, up here. And this talks about the fact that Ezra Hamilton gave Charles Graves some mining claims on Tropical Hill, which is here. And this is the home of Charles Graves. He lived here. In fact, I think, according to what I read from Glenn in one of his books, that's Glenn Settle, when Hamilton discovered gold or was working on the hill, Charles Graves let him live there at his place. Then we have C4, which of course is Tropical Mine. Okay, moving on. C5. I'm looking for C5.
That's the pit.
It's the pit, and I've seen that big pit, but I didn't realize that this big pit was where they got some of the rock for one of the airfields out the base.
Yeah.
I I used to ride horses out there, and it was a big pit, but I didn't realize that that was what, where it had, you know, where all that had gone. Oh, I did it again. I need a lesson in using this. Then C6 talks about the clay pit where Hamilton discovered the traces of gold. And as you remember, I think, Hamilton at that time had a pottery factory down in Los Angeles. And he had gotten a sample of this clay, and he discovered in this sample of clay, he discovered gold, which is how he ended up coming up here to look for gold on Tropical Hill.
But correction, they're saying Dr. Crandall found it. And
Yeah,
they shipped
it was called Crandall's Hill, and Crandall replied to an advertisement that was in the LA newspaper asking for clay. Hamilton, you know, I guess had asked for clay, and he sent a sample, and so the clay was good. So Hamilton was getting clay from this pit, which is on the back side of Tropical Hill there. The scar of the pit is still there. And Hamilton just happened to notice, I guess, that, oh, there's something else in this that's kind of interesting, it's gold. And when things got sort of slow, and this is according to what Glenn had written, when things got slow with the business, Hamilton decided he'd come up here and look to see if he could find the source of the gold that was in the clay that he had been using for his clay pipes down in LA.
And that clay pipe, we have a section of that as part of.
We do.
this.
It's out in my barn. I have a piece of clay pipe that Hamilton made. That is correct. All right, moving on to C7. This was easy.
Early man site.
Yeah, the early man site. It's up here. Here is Mojave Tropico, here is Sweetser Road, and as you go up around the corner, there's this early man site, which Byron Glennon's brother explored and wrote a book, and we have the book online. And I've been there. There was a metal building when I first was there, but no fence. There's now a fence totally around the site. There's a petroglyph, and there were mortars in the bedrock. There were, you know, so obviously it had been a site where the Native Americans had been there for a while because they had some really significant mortars in the bedrock. But right now you cannot get to it because it's been totally fenced off. If you want to read about it, the book is on our website.
Would that be near the backside of the Landscards?
Yeah, if you're going to go to the Landscards, you go this way, and you continue around over here, and they're about there. So this site is in this area before you get to the road that goes to the Landscards. Okay? All right. Moving on. And that's what's challenging about this map, is because you have to find where you're going
The
next.
movies. And
Yeah.
TV shows.
This is the area, again, we have Mojave Tropico Road, and this is the area up by Lands of Promise, north of Lands of Promise. And this is what they have listed as the movies that were filmed there, and I think there may have been more. Does anyone see something that can be added?
Is Big Valley on there? I know that was farmed, or filmed near where, the Weldies live. They would see them out there in Carlos, Big Valley.
Okay, the Weldies lived over here, on this side of Mojave Tropico Road.
Oh, okay.
So this is the Lands of Promise area.
See, I don't know exactly where it was, but it was out in that area. They probably were in different locations.
Okay. Is there anything else that we can add to this?
There was a movie called Them about giant ants.
About what?
Giant ants.
Giant
It's
ants,
called Them.
them, and it was filmed out here?
That's what I understand, but I don't know where exactly.
And we saw them filming Nichols where James Garner rode the motorcycle as a sheriff. Oh, the picture I got of him, he was on a horse, but in that TV program, he was mostly on a motorcycle, and I know that was east of Tropico, or Mojave Tropico, whatever it was called. And when we saw them out there filming, so that would have been over in that area
Up
somewhere.
here in the Lands of Promise.
Somewhere in that area,
Lands of Promise is down here, this is in
Yeah,
the
I
hills.
don't remember exactly where,
North of
maybe
Lands of
someone could look
Promise.
at mountains, but I don't know.
Okay, I just wanna kind of point out, just so you know, there's a dirt road, and I'll be talking about this dirt road later. Again, Mojave Tropico, that's the road in green, and this is the dirt road, just kind of remember the dirt road, okay. Next slide. All right, I don't know, I used to ride horses in this area, and I didn't know this until I looked at the map. This is east of Mojave Tropico Road. Here's Mojave Tropico, east of Mojave Tropico. And apparently there was low-grade uranium out there. And it ended up, I guess, that some unscrupulous people salted a little bit and sold shares. And according to this, ended up spending some time in San Quentin for their efforts. And as I say, I used to ride all through that area. I don't remember this. Again, here's the dirt road. And the reason I'm pointing out the dirt road is because of the next one, which is C10. This is the Gem Hill area, and here's the end of the dirt road. Now, I never went out there. When we rode, we never did go in this area because it's so rocky. Even though our horses were shod, it just wasn't pleasant riding. So we never went out in this area. I understand now that this area is posted no trespassing, so I don't know what they're doing out there.
Yeah,
but
it's a bunch of like digging and chemicals.
Yeah,
deposits.
you don't want to go out there now.
They're doing what, Shar, out there?
They're mining out there, is what Sherry.
It's posted no trespassing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the gems were they were finding. In my head, I'm thinking agate, but I'm not sure that's right. Does anybody know what?
There's agates and jaspers.
Agates?
And
Okay.
Jaspers.
And jaspers? Okay, because I remember people talking about it, but it's a very rocky area, so it was not an area that I ever explored.
That's not part of what the cement plant is doing? No.
All right, so that's Gem Hill. Moving on to C11. Now, it's really kind of out of, here's C11. It's really out of where it should be. The Bacchus home is way over here by the freeway. It's not here by Mojave Tropical Road. But this is a little interesting bit of information that Mr. Bacchus, for whom Bacchus Road is named, apparently reported official weather from his home for over 50 years. Notice the spelling is different than is on the street signs and the maps. It's not spelled this way on the freeway, it's not spelled this way on the sign that's at the corner of the street where I turn.
Well, it's spelled two different ways, right?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah,
Same here.
so I'm not sure how Mr. Backus spelled his name.
Who is it?
Okay, next,
Hey Gretchen,
yeah,
I've noticed when we've gone to our cabin and got off the normal road, we go on Backus is spelled that way on one of the signs out there.
Which way?
Oh,
Which
is
one?
it?
I don't know, it's way up in some.
No, but
So-
which way,
Which way is it spelled?
It's the H, B-A-C-H-U-S.
okay.
B-A-C-H-U-S, so way out west, and
Way out.
she's, yeah, like 100 or 200,
90th,
Yeah.
120,
Yeah.
290th, 280.
yeah, way out west. Okay, C12 is right here. And there's nothing talking about it right there. That's what's really confusing about this area. Because the description about this is somewhere else. This is called the Big Three Mine. And then here again, we have Backus Road. And this is, before you get to the curve on Backus Road. Now, what's the Big Three Mine stand for? Let's see if I can find it. There it is. The Big Three Mine stands for Bernard Parash. I think Giannini is spelled wrong, of the B of A, and Sid Brahman. They were the big three that came together. In fact, this is the guy that bought Willow Springs, so he'd have a place to live while they went up there and mined that area in the Big Three mine area.
He bought the town of Willow Springs, Gretchen?
Well, he and his consortium, yes, they bought 160 acres, I believe. The community of Willow Springs was purchased in the 30s by this group. And one of the people that was associated with this group was a Nelson. And he eventually bought out everybody for Willow Springs, not for the mine. But this is in the area, the beginning of the area called Middle Buttes.
Called,
Middle Buttes. Okay, moving on. But you see, it's hard to find because the picture of it is, the location is way up there and they've got the description somewhere else. That's why this is a tricky thing. Okay, moving on to C13. This is a site north of Backus Road. Before you get to the curve is down here. There is a hill, and if you look, there's a salt cave, and I've been into that. I've been there. There was a college professor, Houghton, we finally figured out, and I went on a field trip with the Historical Society back before I was really involved in the Historical Society. Houghton led the trip, and he took us up there and talked about this salt cave. And you can see it if you know where to look as you drive along. It's very, 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 very prominent that there's a cave up there. And according to the map, I'm sure the,
Do you have to move it? Oh, here we go.
okay, according to the map, still,
Nobody's moving, you guys gotta move.
this was salt from Cohen Lake, which is up, I guess, in the Owens Valley.
North of Ridgecrest, I
North
think
of
it's
Ridgecrest? Okay.
About 15, 20 miles. You know where it is?
And,
It's Saltvale, yeah, where Saltvale is.
yeah, and they traded with, coastal, Indians, the salt for trinkets. That's what Houghton said when we were up there.
It's a couple miles down Walnut, right?
It's not, you know, it's clearly visible from, Backus Road as you're driving east. Okay. Moving on. Yeah, there's more about the Salt Cave. That's where you can read it a little bit better. And then I'm sure that this information came from Houghton also, but when we were on the field trip to the Salt Cave, I don't think this was even discussed. But I'm assuming that Houghton probably gave, the Harringtons this information also. That this was an Indian site. Now here's the curve on Backus Road, that first curve there on Backus Road, and apparently it was up in this area where the Indian site was. I don't have any other information about that other than what's on this map. Has anyone ever done exploring up there?
Not for that.
Not for this? Okay.
No idea.
Okay, we're going to now, I can point it out here. Here's C-15, but C-15 is talked about somewhere else. So,
It's right below C11.
yeah, it's, and, you know, there's a better thing of C-15 right here. So let me get to where the description is.
It's the one
It's
just
the
below.
cactus and the cocoa mine. And here's where it describes it, and it's down a ways, you have to look for it, and here's the information. The cocoa mine stands for, apparently, and I didn't know this, Terry, had you ever heard this? CO for Colorado and CA for California. It was an open pit mine, it produced quite a bit of gold and silver. Yeah, and we haven't heard of it. Yeah. Okay. Going on. Some of you may remember this. Oh, you know what? I think I skipped. I skipped C-16.
16, just below
Oh, I
the
see,
mine.
it's underneath
Coconut.
C-15.
Yeah, there's C-16. That's the cactus mine. And that's up where Cliff was mining. Again, that's all part of Middle Buttes.
Yeah, he had those 4 pits on that hill and 2 of them was on his property.
Right.
Terry, stand up and say it loud so they can get it on the recording.
Well, it probably picked it up.
It probably picked it up. He's got a mic right there on the chair. Yeah, so, say it again.
Oh, I said there's 4 pits on that hill and 2 of them were on Cliff's property.
Yeah, okay. And this was originally a mine that was developed by the Mudd family, as in Harvey Mudd College, down below. I don't know if they still have any interest in that or not. But anyway, that's all, again, part of Middle Buttes. Okay, now let's go to the turkeys. I think most of you remember the turkey ranch. If you were here, I remember the turkey ranch. I used to go out and get fertilized eggs from my biology class when I was teaching biology here at Roseman. And the interesting thing is that they were trying to develop a 100-pound turkey, but nobody wanted a 100-pound turkey.
Where are we gonna cook 100-pound turkey?
Yeah.
What size oven would you need?
But, you know, some of the buildings have ended up, one of the buildings that was out there, and this is an extension of Bacchus Road here, across, 90th. One of the buildings is the one that's there on 20th Street that used to be the old RCSD building. That's one of the buildings from the Turkey Ranch.
That road's paved a little way now, isn't it?
It is, because if you continue out here, you go out to some serious solar development. And you get to some point where you can't go any further, there's a big gate and they don't want you out there.
Like 125th?
Yeah. Yes, go
Now,
Jen.
Dave Keithley just popped into my mind, would that have been a different turkey place, or would that have been in association with this, if it says Ralston Purina? Keithley Turkeys?
Keithley does sound familiar, does anyone know, does anyone recognize that?
He just said Keithley McPherson.
That's the KM was on their gates, Keith and McPherson.
Maybe they did it in conjunction with Ralston Purina or something, but
Okay.
I don't know, I just.
Keithley McPherson. As I say, I don't remember what it was called when I went out there to get fertilized turkey eggs. I just remember that they donated them to the school and I used them in my biology class. Okay. Now, coming south on Mojave, on 90th Street, I'm sure a lot of you remember the Calandry Farm, and all that's left out here, they had big packing sheds, huge packing sheds and offices. All that's left out here are the foundations. But they are still there. Now, this, I have no substantiation for this, but one of Hamilton's sons, Fred, apparently told Glenn Settle that there was a meteor site out here. Now, how he determined it was a meteor site, I have no idea. And apparently, he never got around to taking Glenn out to the site. But that's on the map.
13 miles is a long way west.
Now,
Or is it 1.3? I don't have it.
I looked for I couldn't see the dot, I was looking for one. You think it's a
it
1
says
point?
13 miles, but I'm wondering 13 miles from where?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it means from this road. I think it means from the start,
Oh.
possibly.
Well, the one before it's 12.9 and that's from the freeway, right?
Yeah,
So it's 13, it's not really
yeah, it's close, yeah.
close of an
Well, let's go find
That didn't even get a number.
No, it didn't get a number, and this next didn't get a number either. Apparently, about even through the 1950s, there were horses roaming. This would be south of Calandry's. Does anyone remember that?
They used to come down to Bacchus Road on 60th and when I was walking home, I'd see them out there. Yeah.
So you would see them when you were, okay, they'd come down Bacchus Road and 60th?
Yeah, cause one guy ran into one of my van, didn't do the van much.
Okay, so this is valid. We have eyewitness accounts that this happened, okay.
Yeah, we'd see 'em.
Now there are still wild horses kind of roaming, but they're way up on Mojave Tropico, on,
Oak Creek.
up out of the Oak Creek area, Tehachapi, Willow Springs Road.
Yeah, between,
I know a lot of people have.
I've seen them.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. All right, 19. Here's again, 90th Street. And here is Hamilton Road. And this is the road Manley that comes out of Willow Springs. And up in this area is where Spade Cooley had his ranch. And he was gonna make it a water wonderland, I think.
We just drove out there a couple weeks ago and you can still see where he dug the things for it. and stuff.
Okay, you could still see the
Ponds or
remnants of
whatever,
the,
yeah.
of the berms that he put up to make it.
There's still a sign that says like Spain Cooley Avenue.
I didn't see that.
Used to have the
It's
big
not
signs in
down.
Water Wonderland, remember the big signs out there?
I never saw that.
Yeah, big.
Too young.
Well, this, you know, of course, this road, Hamilton Road, is named for Ezra Hamilton. Manley Road, which goes to Willow Springs, and Willow Springs is right there. So that kind of brings us to 20. Manley Road was named for somebody in the party that got stuck in Death Valley, and they had to come over to Los Angeles to get help, and it was Manley and some other name that escapes me at the moment. But there's a lot of people that came through Willow Springs, and a lot of them are named here.
And Gretchen, going out Hamilton Road, one of the house that Trudy Epley grew up in was supposedly owned by or lived in by a Hamilton.
By a Hamilton?
Probably not Ezra, but someone, and they were always looking for buried treasure, and there was a little bit of sidewalk around, they bounced golf balls to see if it sounded different, and they'd dig and stuff. And in the room that was hers, there was a piece of, like, it looked like plywood kind of that came off. They found small Mexican coins back in that little space, you know, things like that, so I don't know, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, she's talking about, okay, here's Hamilton Road, and the Epleys lived about here, I think. And,
Probably one of his sons or
one of his
something.
sons, yeah, there was Fred, there was Truman, there was another one, Lester maybe. But anyway, lots of interesting people have come through here. Of course, the reason is because Willow Springs had water, and this was the main watering hole. This is the place they stopped. But if you look at the names, I mean, you know, Father Sarah, General Fremont, the Jayhawk Party, that's the group, I think, that
There's a sign out there about that.
Manley Road, yeah, is named for. And I thought this was interesting, when it was a stagecoach station, I'm talking about Willow Springs, they wouldn't let the Indians use it. But when, Beale got a hold of, or had it, they were allowing the Indians to use it. And then Ezra purchased Willow Springs down here, 160 acres, from his proceeds, from the mine.
Now, Gretchen, what ended up happening to Spade Cooley? Did he serve a prison term? Did he?
Yes.
I believe he did.
He did.
He did serve a term, and I
But
think
they let
right
him out.
after he
They
got
let
out,
him
he
out to
died.
go play.
But he got out to perform and apparently died backstage that night. I think it was only a one-night thing to let him go out and do this performance, and he would have gone back, but he
And I
had a
think
heart
he had a
attack.
pardon that was coming through.
It might have been.
That he
Could
didn't
have
make
been.
as well.
And that was like a step towards it, I don't know.
I remember watching him, you know,
Because-
perform on television.
And because the kids were in school here, and some of the family that worked with the project, they had a son, and they all lived close to Trudy, so we knew Cooley's kids and that boy, that his dad worked there. We knew those kids, and when my parents told us the next morning after it had happened, they said Cooley was arrested for murdering his wife, my thought was, oh no, they've made a mistake, how could they have gotten the wrong person, you know? I've never met anyone that had murdered anyone, it just was beyond my imagination at either junior high or I think I was probably still in the 8th grade, I couldn't believe it. You know, and then it turned out to be true. But down,
Yeah, he made the kids watch him kill her.
There was what, Joe?
I think he made the kids watch him kill her, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it was a one-time thing, from what I was told,
Okay, we can do that.
If you do that, then I'll give you a minute.
Okay.
from what I was told, that he was a
Just mine.
pretty much long time wife abuser. All right, moving on. Let's get into more positive things here. Here's where there's a mistake.
Oh, she found a mistake.
Okay, here we have 90th Street. And this would be west, and this would be east. And look where they've put the old
Yeah,
Bullet
the
Spring
school
School.
is on the road.
It's on the wrong side of the road. There's still, the remains of this school are still here, but it's not here, it's over here.
Right.
So here's the big boo-boo that I found.
We both signed.
And this information
Something else.
does not agree with the information that I got from, a book that was written under the auspices of the Kern County Superintendent of Schools in 2010. What they wrote about, Domino School District here does not agree with what is in the book that was published under the Kern County Superintendent of Schools auspices. The little school of Domino did have difficulty maintaining enrollment, and they did change their name to West Antelope Valley School briefly, and then they ceased to exist, and then they got students again, according to what I have from this book. So this doesn't quite agree with that. Okay. Continuing on. This was, to me, absolutely amazing, but a lot of people remember it. We're now at the corner of Rosamond Boulevard and 90th Street. Did you know that there was a candy factory there at one time? Not only was there a candy factory there, but it was financed by Shelby and Lee Iacocca. And some people remember that.
So I have a friend who works for George Lane, and she texted me today, and she said, tell them that George Lane's father, Frank Lane, got his driver's license at the Domino Post Office. He said he remembers the candy store as well.
Oh.
Going to the candy store.
Okay, if you
Joe,
didn't
you're
hear
gonna
what,
have to be louder for those of us
Yeah.
behind
You
you.
have
Say
to
it again.
stand up and
Stand up,
say it.
Joe.
say it again, Joe.
So a friend of mine works for George Lane, and he said that George Lane's father, Frank Lane, got his driver's license at the Domino Post Office, and that he also remembers going to the candy store.
And I was going to say that I believe Terry's dad, Cecil, told us he got a driver's license out there at Domino.
Well, Domino
Do you
existed.
remember that? No. Seemed like he
Yeah.
told me.
Domino existed.
Yeah.
It's
Well, he
just their
took us to the
information
remains out
about
there.
the school is
Yeah,
incorrect.
yeah, yeah. Oh.
But Domino existed. I didn't know it had a post office, but now we know it had a post office also.
And there's been some pictures of a school floating around on Facebook at different times of a school, I believe.
Okay,
I don't know exactly where it was, but that's interesting, that your friend.
yeah, that's a neat little tidbit. And I'm not sure which of the buildings was the candy factory. I don't think it's the one right on the corner where the big mural is. I think it might be one of the others, but I don't know. Does anybody know?
Did you know exact?
No.
We're actually mad at our parents now for not taking us there.
I know. Okay, moving on to C-23. Here is the information on the raceway. And I didn't remember the name of the person who was the first promoter. I don't remember when Chris Hugh talked to us that he used that name, but he may have.
Yeah,
He did.
He did? Okay. But this is interesting information about the racetrack. And another little interesting bit that's kind of stuck next to it is it says that Hamilton had built a mill south of Rosamond Boulevard, which is here. And he used it to process ore from the Lida mine, which was his first mine. And this is the only place where I've seen that information.
Is it where the Thames are? The Thames?
It's south of Rosamond Boulevard.
Dolores, would that be about on your house?
No,
No,
Dolores,
this is out of
Dolores is way over there. This is right down
70th.
from the racetrack. Here's Horse Thief.
Horse Thief
Here's
is
the
70th.
Yeah, here's the raceway.
Isn't that where the house was, that Marquez rented from Dunkley?
Oh, that's the house, I think.
Yeah,
Terry remembers of a.
There was a house here where
There's
Dudley
tailings.
lived. Yeah.
There's tailings on the south side of the road, again, Cecil pointed that out.
Okay, so it's on this, so it's on the south side of the road. So there are tailings out there, which would be the result of
It's
the
obvious.
mill.
If you do a tailings with light, it's obvious right by the road.
Okay. I just thought that was a little bit of interesting.
Pardon?
Says 19 miles south of the road.
From 60th Street.
Okay, and here we are at C-24, which is now history. I didn't realize that when the Maynards bought this area for their feline breeding compound, that there had actually been a house there before. But apparently in the 30s, there was a doctor that had a house there. And so when the Maynards bought the property for the exotic feline breeding compound, apparently they bought the area where the doctor's house was. And of course, this is now history because they are now closed. And that brings us to the end at the breeding compound, which is now closed. And we are now back to where we started. So, the circle is complete.
Gretchen, did you guys go out and take any pictures?
No, because I had, this kind of got put together at the last minute. This wasn't something that, I had gotten Mac to do all this little bits of the map. And I was thinking it would be a really neat thing to go out and take pictures of these areas. But from the time I talked to you about this till now, there was no time for me to incorporate that. But that would be a fun thing to do.
Well, we should do it in the fall when all the grass and stuff is gone. You
Yeah.
can
Oh,
look at it.
We should go out to these sites and actually take pictures
Yeah.
to go along with
So I do
this.
have a question, going out there recently, out by Silver Queen, I think it is, there's an old house with a big caboose in front of it.
Silver Queen.
I believe it's Silver Queen. I'm
On
curious what the
Bacchus.
story behind that is.
There are some really interesting places along Bacchus Road on the north, below, the big mountain.
That's, just, well, first started with the house, then, he lived there for a little bit, and then eventually moved that caboose in there, and he visited for a while, yeah, been up there for a long
And
time.
who was that?
That's not an easy
And who
task.
was that?
Oh, I don't know. But they used to advertise that land on TV way back when.
Gold.
For
something
sale?
like that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That sign was there for a long time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all mapped out, it's all plotted out.
Okay, any other comments that we need to add? Well, what we do need to do is take this map with a camera and go.
And I
Joe, bring the
think
camera.
we
I'll go.
also
I'll try.
need to probably through Facebook pages, or you are from Roseman, specifically ask, does anybody have a story attached to any of these spots?
Well, I'm hoping that, because this is gonna get posted on our YouTube, that if anyone has any stories attached to any of these places, that they will contact us. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and talk about this now, get your input, as well as have it, posted on YouTube. And if anybody wants to do a Facebook blurb that says, look at the YouTube and see what we have, that would probably work.
We used to go dig in the glory hole, me and my cousins, the other Lewises, and get the clay, and we would make little potteries, we sold them to our neighbors. So, those who bought them, they weren't anything special, but we were just allowed to roam around out there then, I guess.
That's out the mine.
Behind the mine.
Yeah, out past the mine, yeah.
Yeah.
The glory hole, of course,
Or whatever
they've got
the-
that area pretty much
diggings.
closed off now,
Yeah.
because they're having a lot of issues with vandalism and things of that nature, as we know, because the sign for the time tunnel was stolen, years ago. I was also told that during the war, when they couldn't mine, they did use the glory hole as a source for more rock out on the airport, at Edwards, and so there's probably gold on that, in the runways out at Edwards. It was a way to keep the miners that they had around still busy, but they weren't mining, because there was a moratorium. Any other comments? Well, thank you guys for coming, and thank you for your input, and spread the word that we need more information about really anything in this area.
Just real quick, was the clay only used for pipes, or were they using it for,
Well, you're talking about Hamilton?
yeah, or
Hamilton,
Crandall's?
yeah.
Well, yeah.
They made clay pots and things, and they also made clay sewer pipe. Maybe, I don't know if they tried it on water pipe or not, I don't know. This was way back, you're talking about the late 1800s. Okay, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
And the big one,
You want
it's
me to
on
get, you want me to get the map up again, or?
sure.
Okay, hang on a minute. Let's see if I can start this over again. Nothing wrong with it. Let me get the map up again. There we go. Except that you've got the projector off.
Tonight, so can you give us a little bit of your history so that we understand that you come from this,
Are you on?
from really a big part of authority?
Yeah.
So you have
Hang on.
a clear level of authority other than just local gossip.
Great. So, everybody, I'm Mike Emarelli. I'm an archaeologist working on some projects here in town. I've been, to a few meetings now, working with Gretchen to get all of our materials digitized here.
It's, okay, I gotta get it on slideshow. Hold it. Slideshow,
So I've been around here doing some research for a while. And there's a couple of things, I've been looking at this map for the last few months. And I did notice that when we get down to Willow Springs,
Here's the mark. Here's the,
oh,
it's that bottom section.
those-
Yeah, there you go.
let's see we get down here to Willow Springs.
Probably went the wrong way.
Just have to do it faster. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
So, at Willow Springs, so the description here, the Indians used this watering hole for many eons before the white man. It's a little bit more than that. It was a village site at one point. And when we get down here, it says that Father Junipero Serra came through, but who it actually was, it was a friar from, I believe it was the Mission San Fernando. It was Friar Francisco Garces. And he talks about it in his diary that he was coming through the desert looking for more natives to convert and baptize into the mission. And he came upon this spring, which was a native village. That would have been the Katanamuk people who were out here. And he kind of ingratiated himself to the tribe and spoke with the folks there, and many of them did follow him back to the mission. But then others kind of retreated out in the hills this way. So we have kind of a weird thing with a lot of the descendants of the Katanamuk, because most stayed out here. Some went into the San Fernando, mixed with the Taviam and some of the other tribes down there, which is why they get termed as Fernandeños. But then the descendants of the Katanamuk would have been moved by the U.S. Army out to Fort Tejon. So that's where the folks that were here went
So
once this
probably not Father Sarah, that was a mistake.
No, it was Friar Francisco Garces.
Garces, okay.
I think I have a PDF copy of his diary that I can send you.
Okay.
What does it say on the plaque at Willow Springs? Does it say Sierra?
Oh, I don't know, I haven't been.
There's a plaque out there that explains that, I think, but I don't know what it says.
Yeah, I'd have to go check that out because, yeah, I don't think it was Junipero Serra because this was,
Well, I was surprised when I saw that also, because I thought he was more on the coast.
well, so, yeah, because that was 1769, so he would have still been down at the mission in San Diego.
Okay.
That plaque is right by the stable off of,
Oh, I was thinking down by the water tower. There's one there.
And Mike and Gretchen, you wanna share a little bit about some of the things that Mike is, about your walks through the summer here a little bit?
I was gonna say one other thing real quick. We know that Father Garces went through because of the Garces Rock.
Right.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
Yeah, so,
And this may have just been a mistake, you know, as I say, we found the school on the wrong side of the road, you know, they may have just picked up the wrong name when they were doing this. I think that Houghton may have had some influence in this, because some of this, I think, came from Houghton, but I'm not sure that he would have checked to make sure they were accurate. Because this was done in 2000, yeah, it was really done kind of after, I think, his term at the college.
Do you know when he passed away?
No, I don't.
I don't remember either.
Okay, anything else?
Well, I think maybe this fall, if Mike has some free time, we really should have him come and do a presentation talking about where you have walked, what you have discovered. I had the opportunity
We
to
finished with
listen
this?
to him
Yeah.
up at, oh, good Lord, Gretchen, help me.
I don't know where you're going, so.
Up at the Settles house.
Well, oh, up at the Settles with John and,
With-
Wendy Burton.
Yeah, with John and Wendy, and it was fascinating to listen to Mike talk about where he had walked and what he had discovered through Roseman, and, the goal to protect the historical things that, and the decision-making and the process that has gone into this.
Yep.
And I think it's well worth having you come and really speak about those things, that how much you value the history and stuff.
Yeah, and some regulatory documents that I wrote recently, they should be publicly docketed soon, so I can probably talk about stuff once that's up.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you all for coming.